Income Vista Middle School. We are working on the Growing Up in Vail oral history project. For the record, I would like to ask you to tell us your name and when you were born.
My name is Kevin Kennedy. I was born April 6th, 1973, a long time ago.
Okay, so you want to tell your story?
So I moved out to Vail when I was 2 years old, and didn't know any better, but I knew that from where I moved from, there was a lot going on. Moved from the big city of New York, and came out here with family, and moved out to the end of Houghton Road, which is not like it is in today. There was only about 50 houses, 60 houses out there, and not a lot of kids, not a lot to do, no grass or anything green. So I had to realize what to do, where to go to school, and realized that in my little section in the end of Houghton Road there in Corona de Tucson, there were 6 kids, and we became great friends, still are to this day. And went to one school. It was an hour-and-a-half bus ride each way, because there was one bus. The one thing you knew is you didn't miss it, because you were definitely in trouble. Because parents would have to come back out of work or whatever it might be, because Corona, even now, but back then was even farther than it seems today.
Which school did you go to?
Vail Elementary, which was the only school in the district.
What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject, and probably still to this day, is science. I just love science. I love math. Everybody asks me for math questions still to this day, and you'll always see me start working on math questions now.
What brought you here? Your family?
My family. My grandparents. My grandmother had asthma, and back in New York and all that, they thought the drier climate was always better, so they came out here. They had bought 2 small homes out that way, one for them, one for my mother and father, and we still own one of the 2 houses to this day. Yeah.
What did they do for work?
My grandfather and my mother worked at Hughes, which is now called Raytheon. My grandmother really just took care of me. Back then, that was acceptable to do. Where she could send me off to school and actually be there when I came back. I had to get up at like 6 in the morning every morning, catch the bus about 6:30 to make sure I was at Vail Elementary, which is Old Vail Middle now. By 8:20 the bus hit. I'll never forget that, because everybody was together, everybody sat together, everybody knew each other, and you picked up people all throughout the whole route when you come down Sarita Road, which from Houghton to Wentworth, if you're familiar with the area at all, was paved, but the other side of Sarita Road was all dirt. It wasn't even paved yet, so to get into Green Valley and the Sarita, all that, you had to either go around most of the time because it was not passable.
So could you describe the whole bus route?
Yeah, the whole bus route, it picked you up. So there is, I think, Sycamore and, I forget the other school that's right next to it. Corona Foothills. Those weren't there, that was desert. There's a church that's there, the Mormon church, and the bus stop was right across the way. It was just a dirt area at that one point. They had actually put a bench seat in there eventually, but it was just a dirt area. Everybody knew that's where they had to go. You went down to Sarita Road. You picked up some people on the corner there where the Roadrunner Market is now. It used to be a 76 gas station. Did not ever have any gas in it, but it was a kind of a mechanic shop. The Roadrunner was where Argentiano's is now. It was a family-owned business for many, many years. Ray was a great guy. Then you went up Sarita Road, went into Bel Air. There was a stop there. You didn't go into the neighborhoods. They went to the neighborhood. All the kids in the neighborhood went to one stop. They picked you up there. They went all the way around to the corner of Wentworth and Sarita Road. There's a stop there. That's where we always did our fire drills on our bus. I don't know if you guys ever do them, or anybody rides a bus anymore, but you had to do fire drills on a bus once a month and jump out of the bus, get back in. It was great because you got to go out the back of the bus to do that. And then you went down into Wentworth and West Stones. There was a stop there, there was a stop at Andrada, and then you went all the way into Vail Elementary. So it was a long day before you even got to school. No grass at school. Number one rule, don't throw rocks. It's real, it was true. The school used to have wire mesh over the windows because the windows were always broken. The kids threw rocks, and they ended up putting mesh over there, which they do not have anymore. I find interesting. But they have grass now too, so.
What transportation did your family use to get around?
It was back then, just automobiles. They had to. They had an old Chrysler New Yorker. I remember that. I spent many time in the back seat. So it was a very long trip into town, which I got to see probably 2 or 3 times a month. You didn't come out. There was not a lot to do. There was nothing to do in Vail. You had to invent stuff. You had to use your imagination. None of that.
So, can I ask a follow-up
Sure.
about that before we move on? What did you invent to do? What did you guys
You use your imagination. You went out, you ran through the desert, you tried to go to, your buddies and all that, you built forts. You went out, you looked up at the clouds, you made all the cloud animals you could. If the person could see it, you get a point, type of thing. You run through the desert as fast as you could. The person with the least amount of cactus in you, got a Coca-Cola at the time. The last person had to drink out of the hose first, which was always the hottest. And it was one of those things. It was simple, yeah. Not a lot going on. You were out in the middle of, back then, absolutely nowhere. So you just had to make do with what you had. Which really wasn't a lot. It was each other. I did. I played a lot of football, a lot of baseball. I do. I have. Not for any teams. But did try to go to the U of A and play football. That hurt my knee. So, yeah.
When you were like a teenager like us, what was like the cool thing like everybody wanted to have? Like, what was?
Wow. Back then, I think it was probably not as correct as it probably is, but everybody wanted to. Everybody really wanted to have a gun. They wanted to hunt.
BB gun?
Shoot. No, back then it was a little different than it is today. But we were out in the middle of the desert, and we learned how to hunt. That's what we did with our families. My uncle was still a big hunter, still out in the Corona area, and your own knife type of thing, so that you could.
What did you hunt?
Oh, everything from deer to we'll go up in the mountains and eat turkey and javelina. Nothing we couldn't eat. We didn't hunt. We didn't do things just to shoot it up or anything. That it was a lot more of a respect. Kind of like the good old days that you read about in books. It's we respected it. If we didn't shoot it, or if we weren't willing to eat it.
What kind of food did your family eat when you were younger, and how did you get the food?
Well, that's a great question. So, does anybody know where the Big Lots is? The closest Big Lots. Where is it at? Harrison and Gofflings. So, okay. Does everybody have an idea where that is?
Yeah.
That was the closest store. That was the closest store we had. There was nothing in Reader Ranch. There was nothing. They're going to build that Safeway. There's nothing out there. So once a week, you just wrote your grocery lists, know what you were going to have, and you planned for it ahead of time. It wasn't just like you could go, I'm going to find something to eat and go to the store. That was an hour and a half round trip by the time we did that. We just didn't have that kind of time after working all day or coming in back to the family. We just had to make do. And if you forgot something, that was the worst. Because then you just did without. It just wasn't worth the time, the money, and the energy to come all the way in. Because Houghton Road, and it still is to this day to a certain point, and it's pretty close to being the same as it was. But when it rained, and if you didn't catch it at the right time, at the freeway there, those big parking lots? Anybody know why they're really there? for the people who could not make it across Houghton Road and they stayed the night in those parking lots because you just couldn't get through. It wasn't safe. The water was running so fast that Sarita Road did not exist. You could not get through. Wentworth was just as bad. So you just had to stay there, park, and wait until the sheriff said it was okay to pass.
What was your favorite family dinner that you had?
Oh boy, that's probably meatloaf. My good mom's meatloaf is always the best.
Yum.
My grandparents though came from New York and they're Italian, so a lot of Italian dinners too, as you can tell. But yeah, no, that was always good. But meatloaf is always probably my favorite.
What kinds of books were available to you and your family?
What kind of books? A lot more than in Max's time. If you went to the library, you could. That was way in town. That was a rare, incredibly rare thing. But we had a library at Vail Elementary, and there was just about every book for its time. That kids' books of age appropriate and stuff. There wasn't back then we had encyclopedias. A whole area. Encyclopedia was obviously your Wikipedia for everybody. But they were in book volumes, so you had A, B, C, and there's like 24 to 26 volumes that you had to look up information and do your reports on. And those books were always a few years behind and very expensive, but yeah, they always had a set. We were always fighting over them, literally, just to get our book reports done or our stuff done, because we had to have those books. Nobody had phones, nobody had all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was just a little bit different of a time. Yeah.
How many students were in the middle school?
I think there's right around 200. There wasn't too terribly many. It was from everywhere. Del Lago Golf Course didn't exist. None of that was there. Colossal Cave Road actually went to Colossal Cave. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. But the road is still the same if you've ever traveled it, which it's kind of a dead end now, but it's bumpy. It's a mess. It was a mess back then.
So you went to Vail School through 8th grade?
7th.
7th grade. And
Yep.
then where did you go?
Here in town. Parents kind of moved closer into town. It was just kind of the draining process, and went to Marshall and Dunham, which are off 29th Street, over this way. And depending what side of Harrison you lived on, you went to Marshall. We were going to move on one side. I went to one school for like a week, and then we realized we were going to move to the other side. Went to the other school. Yeah, was busted into Santa Rita High School. We moved back out to Corona. Actually, it was in the Vail area, or by Wentworth, Whetstones area, on the other side of the freeway. And then we got bused into Santa Rita. There was no other high schools. There was nothing like this. I mean, Houghton Road, when I first came here, it was dirt. It wasn't even paved itself, no, it was 3 lanes. So it's amazing how large it's grown. There was no Fry's, definitely no Walmart.
Did the school have a cafeteria, or did you
Yes.
do lunch?
No, the school did have a cafeteria, and it was, you got your tray. It was very period of it. You got milk to drink or water, and they had a menu. You knew what you were getting 2 weeks from now because it was there. There was no choices. There was no vending machine. That was it. Yeah.
So it was one choice each day.
Yeah.
That's it. Good.
Yeah. You didn't even think about it. It was, you were just not grateful, but you just knew that it was lunchtime, and that was what was served. There was no, at home back then too. When there wasn't a lot of choices when we got food, so what was made that was it. So you just got used to that. That was just the way it was.
Did you have to pay for one like we do now?
I don't remember. Especially in the early years. In the later years, you can bring your own lunch, and even as a kid, I guess at any time you could bring your own lunch. But so in the later years, I used to bring my own lunch. No, I don't really remember. I mean, I'm sure there was, but no. And everybody got fed, and everybody at the same time. There wasn't a big school, so there wasn't shifts. The biggest thing was don't throw a rock. Yes.
Can you describe one of your favorite teachers?
Oh, That's a hard one because I have several favorites. In kindergarten, 1979, it was Miss Escabel. Just, I don't know, just a great teacher, a tall woman, still alive, lives in Kansas City, I believe. And my third grade teacher, Mrs. Bradshaw, I don't know how it is nowadays, but back then that was you always have a crush on a teacher, that was my crush.
That's
I don't know. Look, young. Miss Donovan was 4th grade. Mr. Neal was 5th grade. He had a piano, and he used to play for us. He had a large. He had a large piano, and he used to play for us every day.
Did you guys have like specials like art or music?
We did have music, and we did have art. We didn't have a lot that is much more than that. And those were semester classes. Yeah. We always got to make things, especially for the holidays. Still have a few of them that have made it through the years. But yeah, no, it's much smaller of a school. I think we had lockers in '82. That was a big thing in the yearbook type of thing. Yeah.
Did your mother still your clothes and make sure to do the
You know what? They in my case they were bought. A lot of back then there wasn't really like designers or anything like that. Just if it fit, you wore it. If it looked good, you probably didn't get it because that's your mother. But yeah, no, she didn't. A lot of sewing though. A lot of repairs. Out then, it was the desert. I went through shoes like nobody's business. You were always running around, and then you're always ripping stuff, always getting cactus through it, always catching something, ripping out the knees. That's just how it was. We didn't have grass at the school, so if you fell and all that kind of stuff, you were tearing stuff up. Yeah. Back then I listened to music like from my mother's age, my parents. They liked a lot of the it's called classic rock today. From the 70s. I did. I got into Prince when Prince came around. Yeah, no. I'm a child of the 80s, so I like all that cool music back then. Okay.
Did you listen to Led Zeppelin?
Of course.
Okay.
Still do.
Is that a woman?
Of course. No. Back then, what we had, was records. When I got into being a kid, cassettes were the big thing. My first cassette was in 1984. Actually, no, it was 84. Yes.
Can you describe your house?
Yes. So it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. You walked in the front door, and there was a little hallway. Went to the living room. The kitchen was actually in the middle of the house. You could walk all the way around the kitchen. Yeah, kind of interesting. Backyard was normal. They had a rock wall, not like brick or anything, and it was only about this high, so you got to, crawl around it. But it was actually rock. They put cement and built it just from the stuff that was around up there. So, yeah.
Did you guys build your house, or did someone build it for you?
No, they were built beforehand. The community's been around. That community's been around since even in the 50s, depending. There's actually one house out in the Corona area. People don't know this. That has a basement. One.
Where is it? I live in Vermont.
Oh, it's the last street on the corner house. Has a detached garage.
Okay.
You go into the detached garage.
Interesting.
Yep. So yeah.
Did you have a radio?
Did I have a radio?
Yeah.
That was probably my best friend through everything because it was always there. Yes, I did. It was a boombox back then. They had the radios were probably about this big, and they got to carry it around, and it had 4 to 8 D batteries in it. And you try to get to whatever station you want, and it had a cassette player in front.
What did you listen to?
I was again back then in the 80s. Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson was huge.
AC/DC.
Yeah. There was all these other bands too, groups, The Cure and Mr. and Depeche Mode, tons of stuff like that. And I still listen to all that music and you will, whatever music you have as a kid, you'll listen to it when you go. There wasn't a lot of rap. The first rap that came around was like in the late 80s, LL Cool J. You know, that was probably the big, that's when it became mainstream. Run DMC. They were a little bit later, but yeah. NWA as well. Yeah. Yeah, that came around. We all listened to it.
Do you guys like have like a TV, and what would you guys watch on?
You know, TV, that's a great one. The TVs were about the console TV, so they were big like this and about this wide, about this tall. And the screen was probably about this big. So they were huge, they were massive. You know, we watched a lot of the older stations, you know, it's funny, Matlock. Stuff, old stuff. That was new stuff back then.
Did you have to have rabbit ears?
Yes. Yeah, no, you had to have ears and you put them up there and a foil on them sometimes. And then there was an antenna on the house as well.
Sometimes, okay, so it would sometimes need a person to be a conductor.
Yeah.
And so I don't know about you, but sometimes my mom would make one of us kids get up and hold the rabbit ears.
We didn't have too much of that problem. The biggest thing is there was no remotes. Guess who the remote was?
You.
Yeah, it was a remote. And it was a dial. You just change it and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, Fall Guy, which was a cool show, MacGyver, stuff like that. Yeah.
When did you get your first phone?
My first phone. I had to probably be a senior in high school. If not later.
My mom.
Yeah, phones just didn't come around. And my first phone was a Motorola StarTech. It was a flip phone. Wish I had that phone today. Go ahead.
What movies were like popular? Like, what movies did everybody?
Indiana Jones was coming out. You know, obviously, Empire Strikes Back was in the early '80s. Obviously, I was on. You know, '77 was Star Wars. I was a little young for that. I picked it up real quick after that, but yeah, those type of movies were the, you know, I'm a guy, action movies, right? But they were big and still are to this day.
One or two more questions.
Sure.
What did you do for heating and such?
You know, we had swamp coolers. So a swamp cooler has pads on it, and you run water through it. There's a little motor, and it cools it down. So if it got humid, you just had the air, and fans. It wasn't air conditioning, and if you didn't turn it on because it was very expensive. You know, heating. We had fires, but we had heat in the house as well, and gas heaters.
Did you have any traditions with your family?
Yes, you know, huge traditions. You know, Christmas wasn't like you think Christmas is. We had a tree, we decorated, but it was a time for all of us to take a moment and stop and get together. I was an altar boy at St. Rita's, if everybody knows where the church is between the tracks. So I went there. And was an altar boy for many, many years. So Christmas Mass. Thanksgiving was, again, another time for all of us just to take a moment and stop what we were doing and spend time with each other, because family was very important back then. Still is today. And we still do that, but it's not so much of the hype. It wasn't matter what you got, you knew what you had when your mom and dad were sitting down and having a good conversation with you over a meal. And again, we still do that this day.
Anything you wanted to share, or stories that we didn't get to?
You know, it's amazing because, you know, we had, there was one time, it was 10 or 11, and anybody know what an ultralight is? A little plane, you know what an ultralight?
Yeah.
There's one-seater, they have a motor behind you, and they have these, like, cloth wings, and they go around. They don't really have them too much anymore. There was one flying, and the wing broke. And we saw, there was 3 of us, and we saw it go down in the middle of the desert, which was probably right around where Harrison is now, off of Corona. And we made it through the desert faster than the sheriff and everybody else trying to find the roads to do so, and pulled him out and gave him aid. It's kind of neat to be able to do that.
Who were you with?
Two of my friends, Mike Reno and Brian Murphy. And Brian's no longer with us, but I talked to Mike every once in a while still. And some of the people I had in kindergarten, I still talk to this day. They're still here locally, and still good friendships will last a lifetime.
What do you love most about Vail?
You know, I think the heritage. I think, you know, it grew up from almost practically nothing, completely ranch style, and now it's surrounded by families. I think that's the best thing. They haven't gotten into apartments or anything like that. It's more, you know, about still the family. They still hold a lot of events and all that are around families. I think it's very important since I have a family living there. Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought of a specific question. In 1976, the bicentennial train came through. Their whistle stopped at Vail. Do you know if anyone in your family went to see the train?
Yes, and there's a picture of it in the family. It's just not here in town. But yes, I do have that a picture of that, and we were there at the tracks. Yeah. One other quick thing: the Vail post office, the little adobe building that everybody sees there. I used to go in there and do business. I used to buy a candy bar or a soda or something like that right after school on Wednesdays. And it was probably a quarter or 35 cents or something like that back then. But in the building, I actually was able to walk in the building, and there was people in there, and there was stuff there. So nobody's been in it for many, many years, and it's been in repair. It needs to be repaired, obviously, and restored. But yeah, I was there before all that to be able to go in there and check it out.